A new poll conducted by Leger has shown that women in Canada support the expansion of Canada's energy sector. We sat down with the CEO of Canada Powered by Women to discuss the poll and their findings.
Canada Powered by Women really focuses on asking women in Canada what their perspectives are around energy and the economy and the environment. And our purpose is to influence energy policy so that it meets the needs of women. And we use public opinion research with our partner Leger that we conduct across the country as a mechanism to ask women what they think about these issues. And we do that that's really proportionate to the population so that we have a truly national footprint. And Leger, who is our research partner, uses their panel and their survey development to go and ask the questions that are related to those topics. And we know that women across the country really make this connection around the economy and a thriving energy sector. So our audience is, we call it engaged women, because they are very in tune with the news, politics, and they're very interested in policy. But more so, they make the connection that if there's a thriving energy sector, there's a thriving economy. So we've been doing this national surveys for a couple years now, 3 years running, and our audience is 42% of women in Canada, which is about 6.7 million strong. So it's an audience that's very important and critical, and we saw that in the federal election. And they really want to have and are having a conversation around energy and the economy. We've been asking women about energy development and resource development for a couple of years. And so what we've seen, though, is especially earlier this year with a lot of uncertainty with the U.S. relationship and tariffs and trade, was that the conversation and the importance of developing and responsibly developing our energy sector, particularly our oil and gas, went through the roof. This idea that we need to have energy independence and we need to be economically independent. And the two are very related, although different as well. So we asked specifically about support for, development, but also for energy corridors and pipelines and export. And what we found that women were really prioritizing developing our resources, but also making sure that we can lower global emissions through the export of our energy. So we asked quite a bit about, what do you think we need to be doing during all this economic uncertainty? And leveraging our energy resources came through loud and clear.
We also spoke about how those polled view major topics like energy independence and pipelines in Canada, and what needs to happen next at the political level.
So one thing that was very interesting was that we asked women about whether or not they know that there isn't a pipeline that goes from coast to coast, so from BC across the country. And it was 67% of women that weren't aware of that. And what happened was, when we asked that question, we certainly share, okay, so there isn't a pipeline like that. And what the response was that 80% of women said, we need to urgently expedite energy corridors. And 90% said we need to have pipelines in those corridors so that we can get our energy from coast to coast. And then also that we need to simplify regulation so that things can get built. And so not only did they support an energy corridor, but they support an energy corridor with pipelines in it. One thing I would note is that across the board in every single province, the idea that oil and gas contributes to our economic prosperity went up 20% in every single province, including Quebec. And we've been asking that question for 3 years. So the level of conversation that's going on nationally about energy is evident from that level of support, and that idea that our resources make Canada prosperous. Also, I would share that 78% of women think that our energy sector can help for Canada to be the best place to live, work, and raise a family. So we also see a theme of pride in our resources. And I think that's really important because we're talking a lot right now about Canada and elbows up and all these things. And we are rich with resources, and women recognize that and are like, okay, let's get going. Let's get it done. And the other point I would raise for you is that it is not enough for energy policy to align with people's ideas. And what engaged women want is policy that actually executes, like gets things done, and that it delivers on what's important to them. And we know that natural resources, so that goes into the realm of all forms of energy, oil and gas, natural gas, nuclear. It's a recognition that all of the above is needed to meet our needs, and that we could be a global leader in reducing emissions and in technology and innovation in this sector. And so policymakers really need to listen to this because policy needs to be effective and actually get stuff done. And engaged women are demanding that of government. So it's not enough to just have platitudes and rhetoric in an election. It actually needs to happen. And I think that's really exciting. And we're very optimistic that things are going to start moving because there's an energy conversation that's happening now that needed to happen for a long time. So perhaps it might have got, escalated by commentary coming out of the US, but that's a good thing because we needed to be having this conversation years ago.